In the American consciousness, a house is a symbol of security, an asset that builds wealth. So when you see an entire home listed for $25,000, your instinct tells you it is a typo or a scam. But in these 12 American towns, $25,000 isn't a bargain. It is the market rate for a systemic nightmare. We aren't looking at charming fixer-uppers or historic districts waiting for a revival. These are communities where the water runs brown, emergency services do not respond, and the very ground beneath the foundation is toxic. This is the side of the country the American dream left behind. From the sinking streets of the Midwest to the parasite-ridden soil of the Deep South, this is what happens when infrastructure completely dies. Number 12. Gloucester, Mississippi. We began in the isolated hills of Amite, pronounce Amite County. Gloucester was a classic 19th century boomtown built entirely around the lumber industry. When the original timber companies closed, the economic foundation was removed. Today, Gloucester represents a severe convergence of economic insolvency and environmental degradation. The town struggles with a 45% poverty rate and a median household income of just $21,000. The air quality here has become a massive health hazard. Residents have filed federal lawsuits against British energy giant Drax Biomass, alleging its local Amite bioenergy pellet mill has unlawfully released massive amounts of volatile organic compounds and hazardous air pollutants. State regulators even hit the facility with a $2.5 million penalty for illegal emissions. Compounding this, the underground water lines are heavily degraded, leaving residents to deal with permanent boil notices because the local government cannot afford to overhaul its aging aquifer wells. Homes frequently hit the market here for $20,000, but they are structural traps riddled with wood dust, environmental toxins, and pervasive black mold. It is the ultimate example of a town where cheap real estate comes at the cost of baseline human survival. Number 11. Selma, Alabama. Selma is recognized globally as a vital crucible of the civil rights movement, famous for the 1965 voting rights marches across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. But the decades following those historic moments were marked by severe, uninterrupted deindustrialization and a total loss of corporate investment. This hollowed out the municipal tax base and shrunk the population to roughly 17,000 residents. Carrying a stark 37% poverty rate, the city's ancient drainage and wastewater infrastructure completely fails during normal seasonal rains. Stormwaters regularly mix with raw sewage, backing up directly into residential yards and force local families to live out of campers. Public safety operates on a bare minimum budget, resulting in emergency response times that frequently exceed 45 minutes in distressed sectors. Frame properties can be acquired in Selma's outlying neighborhoods for $25,000. However, these homes sit within designated uninsurable zones due to failing stormwater management and severe structural disinvestment. Number 10. Helena West, Helena, Arkansas. Formed by the 2006 merger of two historic river communities, Helena West Helena is a striking example of total municipal utility failure. In early 2024, the city's ancient water system suffered a complete collapse during a severe winter freeze, leaving thousands of residents without flushing toilets, operational showers, or safe running water for weeks, forcing the National Guard to step in. With a median household income of just $24,000, the city operates in a permanent financial deficit, unable to replace water mains that have been rusting through since the mid-20th century. Current independent testing reveals that the local water infrastructure remains severely compromised, receiving a failing grade for water quality due to contaminants tracking far above health guidelines. At $25,000, you can purchase an abandoned shotgun-style home here, but the properties feature extensive interior pipe corrosion from decades of hard, sediment-heavy water and structural destabilization from severe soil shifts. Number 9. Cairo, Illinois. Cairo sits at the literal crossroads of America's greatest rivers, the Mississippi and the Ohio. Yet it has become an absolute urban ghost town where the living are vastly outnumbered. A dark history of intense racial violence, combined with the rise of interstate highways that bypassed the river ports, triggered a total economic boycott and absolute systemic abandonment. The population plummeted by over 90%, down to a fragile 1,400 residents. The definitive turning point occurred when the federal government completely closed and demolished its local housing complexes due to toxic, unlivable conditions. Today, Cairo has no grocery store, no operational hospital, and no commercial core. Historic brick homes are routinely dumped by absentee landlords for $15,000. They are cheap because they are completely detached from a functioning economy. The municipal footprint is actively fading back into the river mud. Number Number 8. East St. Louis, Illinois. Positioned directly across the Mississippi River from the booming skyline of St. Louis, Missouri, East St. Louis was once a sprawling manufacturing hub of 82,000 residents. Deindustrialization and severe racially charged white flight tore the city apart, shrinking the current population to roughly 25,000. East St. Louis features a crushing 43% poverty rate. This complete lack of municipal revenue has led to an environmental crisis. The city's underground combined sewer mains have suffered catastrophic structural failures, leading to raw waste backing up directly into residential basements and pooling in open street-level ditches. Whole neighborhoods have been transformed into illegal dumping grounds for industrial waste. Traditional banks refuse to write mortgages for the $25,000 parcels here. You're purchasing an asset in an active infrastructure crisis zone where the local government must hold emergency public meetings just to address basic stormwater overflows. Number 7. Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Johnstown survived 3 historic, catastrophic floods, but it could not survive the day the steel mills closed forever. Nestled within a steep, isolated mountain valley, Johnstown was once the proud home of Bethlehem Steel. When the industry departed, it triggered a multi-generational downward spiral, compressing the population down to just 17,000 residents. Unlike flat Midwestern industrial towns, Johnstown's rugged topography physically locks its economic depression inside the valley walls. Burdened by massive legacy infrastructure debt, the city cannot repair its buckling mountain roads. A budget of $25,000 buys a large multi-story home here, but it's a financial trap. These properties feature crumbling foundations and require upwards of $80,000 in immediate structural and heating overhauls just to withstand the freezing winters, while water mains repeatedly burst due to an exhausted municipal repair budget. Number 6. Tallulah, Louisiana. In Tallulah, Louisiana, the poverty rate clears 40%, leaving the city in a state of perpetual insolvency. The defining crisis here is a hazardous municipal water infrastructure. Due to an ancient treatment facility the city cannot afford to overhaul, brown, sediment-heavy water flows directly from residential taps. The city operates under frequent boil water advisories. City officials state that water main breaks occur constantly due to a loss of system pressure, forcing low-income families to allocate significant portions of their limited incomes to purchasing bottled water just to cook and bathe safely. With youth flight near 100%, traditional wood frame homes sell for $20,000. But buying here means connecting to a failing utility line that actively corrodes interior plumbing, requiring independent purification setups that make the real cost of occupancy incredibly high. Number 5. Whitehall, Alabama. Whitehall, Alabama is a tiny municipality of roughly 750 residents located in Lowndes County. The region is the epicenter of America's rural sanitation crisis, where up to 90% of households lack access to a centralized municipal sewer line. The dense, impermeable prairie clay soil prevents effluent from traditional septic systems from draining properly. During heavy rains, existing septic tanks back up raw sewage directly into homes and yards. Because a specialized mound septic system costs upwards of $20,000 more than the average annual income of a Whitehall household, residents are forced to resort to straight piping, using plastic PVC pipes to run raw waste directly from their toilets into open backyard ditches. This has led to documented outbreaks of hookworm by international health organizations. The $25,000 frame homes here are legally unlivable under health codes because they lack functioning legal waste disposal systems. Number 4. Jennings, Louisiana. Jennings was built on petroleum wealth, serving as the historic site of Louisiana's very first oil discovery in 1901. But as major oil operations consolidated and moved closer to the Gulf Coast, the local wealth evaporated, leaving a vulnerable community of 9,000 residents. Today, nearly half of Jennings households survive on less than $50,000 a year. This financial compression has triggered a severe urban blight crisis. The town's drainage systems are completely outdated and routinely overwhelmed by heavy Gulf storms, leaving stagnant water to pool for weeks in low-income neighborhoods, creating breeding grounds for disease. The $25,000 homes found at tax auctions here feature compromised foundations, severe termite destruction, and pervasive black mold. The cost of demolition routinely exceeds the actual market value of the underlying land. Number 3. Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Further down the Arkansas River lies Pine Bluff. In the 1970s, it was a proud manufacturing and railroad titan of 57,000 people. However, the subsequent collapse of heavy manufacturing, combined with severe white flight, triggered one of the sharpest population declines in the country, leaving the city with roughly 39,000 residents today. The city's rapid contraction left behind a crumbling tax base, completely unable to maintain its massive physical footprint. Whole blocks are defined by commercial vacancy and structural rot. The local utility grid is highly unstable, experiencing frequent power outages due to neglected line maintenance. At $25,000, you can buy a substantial brick ranch home here on paper, but you are buying into districts where copper theft is rampant and the city cannot guarantee basic security. You are entirely isolated in a community that is actively fading away. Number 2. Marianna, Arkansas. In Lee County, the grand brick storefronts of the past stand completely hollowed out in Marianna. Once a bustling commercial hub for the Arkansas Delta's cotton-growing empire, industrialized farming wiped out labor demands, cratering the population down to roughly 3,000 residents. With a median household income hovering at a mere $22,000, Marianna operates in a state of permanent economic triage. The local hospital closed down years ago. The public infrastructure is entirely spent. Municipal water lines are so heavily degraded that the town routinely experiences severe pressure drops, forcing households onto rolling boil water alerts. Traditional wood frame homes sit empty on the market for $25,000. These properties represent a structural trap where the cost of heating, cooling, and constantly importing clean drinking water far outpaces the low entry price of the asset. Number 1. Allenville, Missouri. Finally, we close in Allenville, Missouri, a village of roughly 100 residents located in Cape Girardeau County. Historically, it served as a minor regional railway stop, but when the logging industry declined and the rail lines were abandoned, the economic purpose of the town vanished entirely. Today, Allenville represents a total failure of municipal utilities. The village completely lacks a centralized municipal water treatment system and has zero public sewer infrastructure. Residents rely entirely on shallow private wells that are highly vulnerable to agricultural runoff, alongside old failing outhouses or unpermitted private septic pits. Because the village lacks a taxable commercial core, the streets have completely reverted to deeply rutted gravel and dirt roads that wash out during heavy rains, effectively cutting off residents from emergency services. Homes frequently list here for $20,000. But buying one means inheriting an absolute liability, where the cost to drill a safe, deep well and install a code-compliant waste disposal system far exceeds the baseline value of the home itself. So, if you ever find yourself scrolling through real estate listings and come across a property that seems entirely too good to be true, remember Allenville. Remember the toxic soil of Whitehall and the chemical-laden air of Gloucester. In a country that treats real estate like the ultimate gateway to wealth, these 12 towns stand as a sobering warning. The absolute most expensive home you can ever buy is the one that costs you almost nothing. The real question isn't why these houses are so cheap. It's what you'll have to sacrifice just to survive inside them.